This one's for Made in Truth Clothing with Eugene O'Neill, founder and CEO. Eugene, thank you so much for being on the show today. It's an absolute pleasure.
You nailed that intro.
I did.
But thank you for having me here, Pete.
Oh, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. So Eugene and I go back a long, long time. We really started becoming friends in 2010, where the first time we really met and built a relationship was when we split a booth at Larkfest.
At Larkfest, yeah. That was a long time ago. That was our first time.
Yeah.
First time vending, period.
Yes.
Big deal.
Yep. And I was in the t-shirt business for a short time. Eugene taught me a lot. Obviously did a lot better job than me because I went bankrupt. I went bankrupt in that business. But I'm just really happy to have him on the show today. He's one of the most hardworking young entrepreneurs here in the Capital Region. The time he puts in on his work is unparalleled. And I'm real excited for him to be here and for him to be able to share his story with us. So again, thank you.
Of course.
So for the viewers who don't know who you are, why don't you just give, I guess, a little background on yourself, where you went to school, and really how did you end up in fashion and then eventually Made in Truth?
Mm-hmm. So let's see. Well, back in high school, I went to Averill Park, and I wasn't going to do anything. I wasn't going to go to college. I told my teacher that, and she was like, "All right, this is the problem. What are you going to do?" I was like, I'm going to rap.
Yeah. My man.
Still will.
Yeah.
I don't mind it, but
you did a great job 2 weeks ago when we were at Poetry Night. Shout out to Poetry Night at Troy Kitchen.
Poetic Vibe, D. Collins. Just those an amazing poetry nights.
Yeah, it was great.
Monday.
It was great.
So I told her I was gonna rap, and she said, "No, this is the problem." And we started to look at what were my skill sets. At the time, I was hurt, so I was in a sling. So I was normally a jock. I did every single sport.
Really?
Every single sport.
What sports specifically?
Basketball, football, track, like high jump, long jump, soccer.
You got the body for long jump.
I did.
You do. You definitely do.
High jump was my go-to. But so I got hurt. I'm in a sling and I'm painting, and the painting got in this legislative art show, and it was like, wow. I was always into art, but it was like.
Did you ever paint like that before?
No.
Really?
That was my first time learning we learned in oil paints.
Yep.
Luckily, our school was still allowed to paint traditionally, so I learned traditionally in oil paint versus acrylic. So long story short, she basically makes me go to St. Rose. That's where she went. She was an alumni. She says, "Well, why not try to be an art teacher?" I laughed in her face. I was like,
it's coming back to me.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like, really, am I going to be a teacher?
Yeah.
And she says, "Well, you do critique really well. You're good at helping people.
You do.
You're good at showing people what they don't see in themselves. And you're just really good at critiquing art." So I was like, all right, I'll try this out. She waved the wands. I got a portfolio review. I got into the school, and I really loved education. Working with the kids and.
Did you go to St. Rose?
Yeah, St. Rose.
Yep.
And so I had a BFA in art education, dual degree, art and education, concentration in printmaking with a minor in art history. So I knew a lot about art through history, but then also I was doing a lot of printmaking. So that led me into screen printing. So I took a screen printing class, and I had to get specially signed into the class because it was for graphic design students, which always was weird to me because they're constantly on the computer. So this was their one class where they get to, do art in the studios, but we couldn't do art.
Really?
So, well, it was just always booked up. It was a prerequisite.
Okay.
And they had to go on from that to another class.
Because I think I remember when we used to come do meetings when we first met. You used to be in downtown Albany using that equipment to print.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I saw a girl print on a t-shirt one day. I was like, how'd you do that? She used the special ink.
Uh-huh.
I tried it and I never stopped. And then I just kept printing on t-shirts. All the clothing racks were just filled with t-shirts, and my teacher was starting to get a little flustered. Like there wasn't a.
But did you feel the passion then, like when
Absolutely,
you were doing that?
Because
like,
I loved LRG. I liked,
yeah,
Crooks and Castles and Diamond
yeah.
and all those collab shirts, and that was really a big thing for me. But LRG had this message, and that was really important for me because I saw them as this artistic brand. I was like, wow, this is art. This is something deep. This is what I want to be involved in.
Yeah. And I don't mean to keep interrupting you. It's just very interesting. Were you creating the designs on the t-shirts that you were printing yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we were just, we would make up. I remember it'd be Friday nights. People are partying.
I remember.
Around me, and I'd be sitting there with my sketchbook just in the party and just like, all right, another t-shirt idea, t-shirt idea. And, we'd have our fun, but I always had this itch where I was like, I have to work. Like I have to be working on something. Yeah. So I started printing clothes, and then people got a little bit more involved with me on that. Mm-hmm. And originally like my brand was Truth Tees. That's all it was. It was truth.
Oh, it wasn't made in truth?
Made in truth because all I had was a shirt that said truth on it. My friends used to work at Valeni's Pub, and they were putting up the signs one day for the new change out on the menu. Yeah. So I took all the letters that said truth and I put them into the copier, and I had this really grungy version of my logo, and I ran it in 2-color prints with every color you could think of. Any color someone wanted, I was printing it, and so everyone had their own version of truth in their own colorway. So that was a really cool thing because it was very customized. It was very personal. But
and was that truth message? I'm going to jump a little bit, but was that truth message the same message that you use now, absolutely, or as it developed? Okay.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's never been different. I mean, the only reason I would even put truth on the clothing was because when I was doing the rap or when I was doing poetry, I would go under the title Truth, subliminal truth rather. So then I started going under. So anytime I was in school, I was still doing rap. Yeah. So any open mic there was, I was always at an open mic. Mm-hmm. So then on every open mic they had, I was very well versed. And so aside from that, I started doing printmaking. Printmaking, you can get some crazy details in some of these prints. Mm-hmm. So I would hide truth in my work, and my friends were always looking for it.
That's genius.
Where's the truth? Where's the truth? And it was this little Where's Waldo game.
Yeah, it's just what I was thinking.
I would just play it with my friends.
I never found Waldo.
Yeah, well, dare to dream, right?
Yeah.
So so then it just transcribed into Truth being the rightful name to be on the shirt. Yeah. And then eventually we just did so many. It was like, all right, what are we doing? Like, this is a design. This isn't a brand. So, I had a partner at the time, and he was like.
So just to backtrack real quick. Absolutely. So you designed the T-shirts. How did you kind of form? You said you were going to talk about your partner at the time. Did you? At what point did you decide that you needed to form a team to start helping you do?
Not
this
necessarily
work?
A team, but just someone. I was an artist. Yeah. Who could do something that was cool. Yeah. And I was not business oriented. Yeah. And I don't consider myself business oriented now. I think it's just natural as to how I connect with people. Yeah. I could use a lot more organization, but at the same time, it almost seemed like people were there for different skill sets that I couldn't fulfill.
That's the right move.
Yeah. And then it was like, okay, well, where are we gonna go with this? And it was like, at the time, Obama was in office. Things were changing racially. Yeah. Things were changing with China overseas. There was the crash in 2008. Mm-hmm. And everyone was like, oh, wait, we have a ridiculously large debt to China. So there was this kind of this push for more American made, this push of like, separating ourselves from outside resources and whatnot. And it was kind of like we were, we're just looking at stuff, and I saw a tag one day, and it was like this barcode. And it said made in China. And I was like, nah, made in truth. Oh, everyone was like,
that's sick.
And then we just were kind of like, all right, well, the barcode idea was really, we all live inside a system where we're already contained, we're already classified, we're identified. They gave us a number already. And we have to kind of really accept that. But to be an individual who still accepts that they're a part of some label, it could make that label really dangerous if those individuals become a little bit more aware of themselves. So that really was the framework for the logo.
So I guess this is a good question to ask now. What does Made in Truth stand for?
Well, Made in Truth is really what I do in art, what I do in music, what I do in clothing now. Is just this conversation that incites someone to have that conversation with themselves. There's a lot of
like their truth.
Absolutely, because I don't like. That's why I'm not even saying what like this is Made in Truth, because I'm not gonna say what my truth is, because it's not something where you it's not something that can be defined in a sentence. It's really that person's action, their nature, their will towards others, how they show up in the world, what they care about, what they love,
Oh, that's
how they
awesome.
express themselves. So it's this searching for self that gives Made in Truth the community that it will.
That's awesome. That was awesome. So it's really amazing. So when you first started off, you and I both know the struggles of an entrepreneur can be challenging.
The struggle and shirt was everyone's motto.
So, during the first few years, I mean, what would you say kind of the biggest problems were trying to launch your business?
One, I didn't trust anyone or anything rather. So I had a lot of people who were ready to throw money at me.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe if I had a little bit more financial literacy, some more business acumen, I could have leveraged that and gotten into a different position that way. But I think a lot of that, just business organization, being like, okay, well, what's my marketing plan, or what's a business plan even?
Yeah.
And you just start staring at that template for days, and you're like, you just don't know what to write until you have to like actually do the work before you can even go back to a document like that and act like you're a professional.
Yeah.
So to try to do that at 20, 19, it's like, it was kind of ridiculous. And to be a dual major minor, I was teaching kids. It was like I lived a very unrealistic lifestyle. I think time was my biggest factor, and I didn't have any of it.
Yeah.
But I guess time is my biggest factor now.
Did you have any help at that point?
Oh yeah, I had a ton of support. I had a ton of friends that would do whatever I wanted. Like we would do bleach sessions, tie-dye sessions. I would make new clothes. And I'd have like 8 friends there, set up like 5 stations and be like, here's your 25 shirts, here's this, go make that for me. And then I had things that were fun, and when the things were fun, people were there to show up. But I think that was also a challenge at that point, was to realize that eventually the friend card runs out, and who's really there to stay, who's really committed, and that list gets very small as you grow older. So, sometimes
it can grow to just you, and then you got to be able to rebuild, and find the right people.
That's kind of where I've been currently, but
which is why me and you are friends.
Absolutely. We grow in layers and we shed old ones, but definitely back then it was not being able to meet all the opportunities that were in my frame of field. There was too many opportunities, and maybe it wasn't being tactical about all the ones that may have been more beneficial. You learn those as you go.
I think that's really good that you recognize that now, and I think that you grow from those mistakes, and now you won't make the same mistake again.
Yeah.
And you
kind
learn.
of just say no to a lot to say yes to what's really important.
Yeah. Saying no is very important, because you can stretch yourself thin very easily. So
I feel like we've been stretched thin for what is it, 10 years now?
I would say so. Yeah, definitely. But we gonna make it. So I know it came in a point with me when I was doing my first, business, US Nation, which was an event and t-shirt company, where it just ended. I know in a time in your career where you were doing Made in Truth, you had to take a step back from it.
Yeah.
What made you do that? And, what problems did you run into, I guess, to make you have to take that step back?
That was a tough portion of time for me, because you start something because of one idea, which was this thing for me. And then, to fund it, even in that time, I still had to make everyone else's stuff. And I had to pay for the materials and pay for the resources and still go to college. So it contained me to have to grow capital that way. But I had a lot of people I was meeting.
So you were saying you had to make other people's stuff. So are you saying you took a step back to start screen printing for other people?
Well, I will backtrack.
Yeah.
Because I almost got expelled from St. Rose for printing T-shirts in the studios. They signed the dean and like 5 other teachers signed off on it, and they were like, if you get caught printing in here, we're gonna expel you from school.
Again, or did they even know you were?
Well, no, they already knew. It was like, okay, well, but this is my art right now.
This
isn't art. First off, that had me a little, but it was like, this isn't art. This is commercial art. It's like, I understand though, like, you can't have a business in a fine art studio. And I'm like, I get that, but who's making money? You know what I mean? I'm a broke college student who's trying stuff on shirts now, and you're mad because I can sell more T-shirts than I can prints. Yeah. And that really just didn't fly with me. So I said, you're wrong. Yeah. And that's where me and my teacher kind of divided. And it was hard. Yeah. It was hard to be like, all right, well, you're literally my only teacher. Yeah. And
it is tough.
And it was kind of just now I do everything on my own. Okay. So I was teaching myself as I was going to school for teaching. It was a weird paradigm to be in. Yeah. And it really did change how I moved forward, as I didn't take, my role in education. I didn't go to school to be the teacher. I chose my business because I spent so much time to protect it. Yeah. So from there, they almost kicked me out, but I was like, all right, screw that. Talked to my family about it. I was lucky enough to clear out a space on my property, and it took me so long to clear out that space, but I made an investment, got the initial equipment I needed, and I continued burning screens at the school. Like, that was how I was making my images to print on the screens, but I knew everyone's schedule. So they all left at 6:15 every single day. They weren't staying there any time longer. So at 6:15, my car was in the back with like 12 screens, and someone's opening
These are the things you need to do.
So I'm going in with like 12 screens. I'd spend like 3 hours prepping screens for like what was like 2 weeks worth of jobs. And all of a sudden I'd burn all those. They'd be out in my car by that night. I'd be back to the shop setting up a job. And that's like that's how everything was. It was like, go to school till 4, go to the shop until 11, take a break at midnight, do your homework from 12 to 4, go to sleep, wake up at 10, do class again. And then that was my college schedule like the whole time.
Yeah, so basically you're saying that you had to kind of take a step back from Made in Truth to focus on generating revenue to print T-shirts for third parties.
Pretty much.
But I'm sure you built a lot of connections doing that.
But I love people, so that was not necessarily an issue for me. Because it was like my brand was a fishing lure, and it only informed who I could link with and meet and connect with, and that became a very huge opportunity for me when So then I didn't choose the teaching job. It was like I was, doing my teaching at Troy High, Coles Elementary, and they offered me a job, but I turned it down because education just changed at the time. The standards changed. There was no more tenure. Jobs were in jeopardy, and it was like, my teachers don't even know what the word is from, big education. It's like, how are we just going to sit here in a crudette and wait for them to tell us what's the right thing to do? So I had to make a move. And so I graduated. And at the time, I was, I had a friend, Maura Tompkins. She worked at
that name,
She worked at the Armory. And she would always make sure I knew about what shows were happening and who I needed to meet, because she was in my screen printing class. So I would spend extra time to teach her. And then from that, she would hook me up, and we'd go to I get in the Armory, and she was like, you need to meet these people. So I met this one group. All of them would Peep This, which is Pete's rival rave entertainment company. So that's
shout out to Peep This.
Shout out to Peep This, because they are amazing people.
No more beef.
No more beef. And they really became the framework for how people knew me at the time. So it was like, I went to one of their shows, started just trying to impress them, get them, make them stuff. And then we went to a Dillon Francis
Were you making
show.
the booty shorts?
I made everything. I made everything, bro. But there was a Dillon Francis show, and I surprised them. Like, I made my own Dillon Francis graphic. It was like glow in the dark. I went all out. And then we went to the show, and I handed them all out to his whole team, and they were very impressed. And it actually got me like to meet Dillon Francis backstage. I was like, well, can you at least give him the shirt? And he was like, yo, he wants to meet you. And ironically,
I think I remember this.
He went to school for printmaking as well.
Oh, shit.
And we had this whole conversation about going to art school and doing the same type.
How sick is that?
So it was a really great experience. And then
I was definitely the most sober person at those shows.
You're the most. So at the time, I started making their merchandise.
Mm-hmm.
So I turned my efforts from like, it was kind of like a collab. It was Peep This Truth.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like, my branding was always on it, but their branding was always on it. I made everything.
Mm-hmm.
We had a lot of meetings. We had a lot of photographers, videographers. We had models. We had go-go dancers. We had like a whole team, DJs.
Yeah, they were deep.
Anytime we were together, it was a party. And so it was all good vibes. So anyone knew what we were doing. They knew that I was the clothing guy.
Yep.
So it just, once I stopped working with them and it just seemed like I needed to do my own thing again.
Yep.
That gave me a good platform to even push Made in Truth in the first place. But then fast forwarding, I did it for about like 4 more years, heavy in the festival circuit, Camp Bisco, Electric Forest, a couple other smaller venues, but predominantly I was straight out the backpack, grassroots style, Camp Bisco, going to festivals.
And I feel like that's important in your business and a lot of businesses to get that grassroots following, to build that loyal following, to build those connections. And
I had a friend buy a shirt
I did the same thing. Yeah.
From like, I met him in 2010.
Yeah.
And it's still great to, know those people.
I mean, you wouldn't take that back, would you? Those 4 years of...
I would never take back anything I've ever done.
Yeah.
Just because I'm here right now and I'm happy with where I'm moving forward.
Yeah, and they make you who you are, and
Absolutely.
as long as you learn from those experiences.
That's why it's interesting to say, well, what do you wish you could have done different? And it's like, if I could have leveraged those opportunities.
I could think of a few things.
You know what I mean? And it's like, I could have did a lot of different avenues, but I have no idea where my mental state would be. It's like, I don't think I'd be as aware of myself as I am now. You go through certain...
And mentally strong.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because of the things that we've been through, I think it makes your brain or your mind much more strong and able to deal with circumstances as you grow.
Yeah.
Instead as
of just
these
being given things.
Yeah, and especially as business gets bigger, and you have to have the ability to, do certain things that, otherwise you wouldn't be prepared for if you didn't,
have the experience.
To have the experience.
Why you'd never want to do that again.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So why don't we talk about where's Made in Truth now? What are you up to?
Well, recently, I did a whole transition again, and
hey, they say if you don't adapt, you fucking die.
Yeah, that's
You hear that, Tony?
I heard that somewhere.
Tony, when are you gonna hop in the video one time? Show them those muscles. Anyway, back to the interview.
So, what was the question?
I forget. What was that? Oh yeah.
He's on chat.
No, and this no edit.
He's on chat.
So where are you at right now?
So
Where's Main Truth at?
I've switched up recently, and I guess I'd say that I spent maybe 6 to 5 years away from my brand.
Really?
If I was really doing it, yeah.
Yeah.
I was making clothes, I was making collections, and I'm probably like, but what I stopped to do was learn more processes. It was like, I'm not just doing,
What type of processes?
Well, I'm not just a clothing designer.
Definitely
It's
not.
like, I'm not just making the t-shirt design and then we're buying shirts from this vendor. It's like, I have to make it. So I have such a high standard for myself that it was like, I wanted to learn different ways to, I got a big embroidery machine, massive embroidery machine. And I had to be the student again. You start learning a couple different things. I was learning sublimation. I was learning a couple other processes through projects that I had to do in order to learn said skill.
Oh, see?
So you start doing stuff for other people. You start doing these things, and You know, you get the resource. I guess it's technically like going to a job and
Yeah.
learning a thing, applying it to your own, but I don't have that. So
Yeah.
it's like, I want to do this now. All right, how do you learn how to do that? You know,
Yeah,
so that kept me away, only to feel like now I have a lot more capability to produce the things that I envision in my head.
Yeah.
So on top of that, I'd say,
Yeah. What's the major transition that you're going under right now?
well, the major transition is that I said, fuck this workflow. I felt like I was a slave to it.
Yeah.
I was doing a lot of work for other shops.
Yeah.
When they were too busy, and that was just, it was like inundating me. It's money, but it's like,
But you weren't passionate.
it's not passionate.
You weren't passionate
I'm not
about
getting the credit. It's not growing my business.
Yeah.
It's not leveraging you to another connection. That's the way my business has survived all these years. I don't pay for marketing. It's all word of mouth. So it's like, I do a good job for that person, they get me 2 to 3 more people. Every client is like that. So I have to maintain a certain, level to do so. But it was hard to do the massive amount of work and still give the individualization to those clients that I do care about. So I took a step back, and I felt something called me to revisit education and revisit art and revisit things that I'm passionate about, the poetry, the writing, all that. So, and mainly the fashion. So I out of nowhere, I was starting to get deeper in a community. I was like, I need to be around better people. I need to be around people who are very community involved, ready to provide a platform, just like I am. You know, we all got something carried on our back. And I met Will Rivas. Shout out to Will Rivas doing his thing. He does the 518 talks in Schenectady, and it's just a platform for anyone who's really doing stuff in the 518 to talk about what they're doing and share their experiences and stories without trying to brand TED. You know, it's like they get to actually talk about the things they're doing, let alone the content. So from that, one of his speakers was Carmen Duncan. Carmen Duncan closed out.
Shout out to Carmen.
Shout out to Carmen and Mission Accomplished. So I called her and I was like, listen, I just had 3 meetings last week, and you came up in all those 3 meetings. So, what do you do? What's going on here? Like, tell me more about what you do. And so she started talking to me about the program, and then she started talking about the Fashion Edition, which is a program they developed to be like an accelerator to individuals who have had prior years, like 2 years minimum experience in fashion. They're not where they want to be. They need to grow. They need resources. They need structure. Excellent. I thought it was just a program to help kids. But then she was like, no, this is for you. And she's like, would you want to do it? I was not prepared whatsoever, but I said, yeah.
It seems like the things that you were looking, that you needed.
It was what I asked for. Yeah, the universe definitely hit me with something right there, yes or a no, and I said yes. And it wasn't easy, but man, did she give me everything I need to feel like what I want to be now.
Yeah.
So it was really a blessing to just jump right back into fashion. They paired me with a seamstress, so I'm learning pattern making. I'm learning actual garment construction. So again, I'm stepping back and I'm the student again, but now I'm the student for myself. So I'm feeling more comfortable in that space, but making the clothes from scratch so then I can print on them, then I can embroider.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I mean, I know you probably don't want to get too in detail about your strategy, or if you want to, you can. But I think one of the things that we talked about was the customization and your vision for that. What is your vision for moving forward with Made in Truth to make it unique?
I just want it to be more high end. It's not just like, we got this Bella Canvas t-shirt and I printed this logo on it, and we go to this place and we sell it. It's like, my clothing is an experience. My clothing is a piece of social interaction. I want to look at clothing in a much more artistic way, where it's almost a performance piece. It allows people to engage with each other in a way that they normally wouldn't. I'm not going to get too far into details that way, but I definitely want it to engage people to communicate with themselves and with other people. And on top of that, I'd say that I think what's going to make it different is the fact that I do all these things, like all these processes. So like whether I'm telling someone to make it or whether I'm making it myself, the level of customization is to the T. You know, it's all the way down to the smallest details, because that's not out of my wheelhouse to do. So
I feel like this all goes back to the original definition we talked about of made in truth.
yeah, right. Well, it's all the same thing. The process, the way in which it happens, the way in which I gain experiences in the world to bring back to the clothing, it's all just a search for self. And it's just you know, I'm gonna be able to provide a further, more individualized piece of clothing for the people who are that ready.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think some of your motivation, I don't know if you want to talk about some of the other things, great things you do for the community. I know you're really a part of it. Every time I go out with this kid, everyone shows him nothing but love. And, you know, yeah. But why don't you, I know you're involved with the murals. Yeah. I know you want to,
So that was cool. And that's why it's like you still do work for other people. Because I was doing work for Joaquin Hope. Shout out to Joaquin, doing great things to reshape the South End. And he also works with A Village as well. I did a lot of work for them, but he keeps me hooked up. And, you know, he's getting me some t-shirt jobs when I really needed it. And, you know, I just do whatever I can to help their organization, because it's beyond amazing. And, you know, shout out to Fourth Family and John too. John, killing it. So Joaquin calls me one day and he says, I just had a meeting with Tony of the Albany Center Gallery, and I wanted to talk to you about the project. And basically he imposed or incited to reshaping the South End with murals that would then be attached to Red X buildings in Albany. And for those who don't know what Red X buildings are, they're the condemned ones with the giant red X's on them. So for years I've had a passion for doing something with those buildings, causing awareness to them, figuring out how to broker the people who can actually bring, you know, community wealth instead of just buying up properties and serving their own function, but actually having an interest to redevelop the community and make it its own sustainability. So from that, I was like, all right, well, how do we even get their attention? We got to do some murals. But it was like, there's so much red tape in Albany to do murals publicly. It's just like, Albany needs to get it together. But we've just figured out a way around that. And so together, the three of us, we came together. He tells me this whole project. I came to Tony with that idea literally 8 months prior, but had no resources to the community in order to achieve the process. So we're sitting in the boardroom together, and I'm looking at Tony, and we just smile, because we know this is literally manifested from a conversation we had a long time ago. And it was just amazing to be a part of it. So, you know, they have people that execute said project. But what they didn't have is an educator. And I have a lot of experience for that, specifically for art. So
with the kids.
With the kids, absolutely. So it was like all the teachers who were involved for us to even get the kids, they were my colleagues in school. My colleague, Christine Monahan at Albany High, shout out to them. And she actually, with Corrine Fall, rest in peace, head of my art department, she taught screen printing 1. Chrissy was her TA for the class. So Chrissy technically taught me screen printing just as much as Corrine did, because she was there in the studios after hours helping us. So from that transpired me to have my own screen printing business, to then go back later to work with her kids to then do murals. And it just, the whole thing was beautiful.
Talk about the universe.
Seriously though. And so I had those resources still in the schools, which was very humbling and gratifying to know that they're still there. And that I could come back to them. So from that, we started doing the murals, but it was like, all right, well, you guys need an educator. Like, cause there's a way bigger thing at play here. Like, no one has kids doing murals in the area publicly that like the kids did it. You know, it's like, yeah, maybe they got involved, but like,
of course,
this is like, I didn't, you know, this was the kids' ideas. I coaxed this out of them. You know, I gave them enough information. I gave them this understanding of community, this idea of censorship, this idea of like what it means to have a voice for yourself. But when you put that in a public space, especially in an area you're not from, what does that actually mean for the people that are there, how does it uplift them? How does it have a conversation about what they go through? How do they relate to it? How does it speak for them?
Yeah.
So from those things, you know, I had to really frame the kids' minds to
make them feel that
to
passion.
make them not only feel that passion, but make the right choice when it came to making the murals. Because this is our pilot program, and we can't piss anyone off. We paid for this stuff to happen.
Yeah.
So you know the deal.
Yeah, I know the deal.
The red tape is always. But we had some really great lessons. I went really in on the lesson plans, and we knocked it out of the park. And the kids couldn't have been more perfect for my first program, and I got a lot out of it. We all did. And, just everyone involved, you know, Tony's staff and amongst everyone else who got involved with the project. It's, you know, that set me on a spark to be like, again, this is what I want to do. I'm going to make a job for it. So I want to be like an art education consultant to schools, to community programs who are ready to do more public art, specifically public art, because I'll do projects with kids, but I want to do a project where it stays somewhere. And
what is public art, just so people?
Public art would be considered anything that's on a wall, anything that's outside, anything that's on a building, anything that's inside a building, you know, anything that could be displayed.
Okay,
rather.
got it.
But semi-permanent. And in that fact, I needed to be semi-permanent because you know, this is all new again, so I didn't have enough documentation to show really how I was talking with these kids. So with that being said, it's like there's a lot for them to remember about themselves in those moments, and they have to remember it when they look at these pieces rather than just crumple it in the backpack. Maybe it goes on the fridge. Maybe the parents hang it up, or maybe they don't. It goes into a folder, and it's just out of sight, out of mind. But like you can teach that to someone. You can show someone. It can do something for someone else. You know, it has to be present. And that's kind of the criteria I want to stick with as I move forward.
That's sick.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things I like to ask is, you know, someone who's in fashion, like you are. Oh, before we get into that question, you want to talk about a little bit about the fashion you're involved in?
Yeah.
I'd love to talk about that.
Absolutely. So, yeah, a lot of community aspects lately. So I went back in a community with just helping the people who are helping people.
Yep.
Doing it with art.
Yep.
And back in community. And then fashion, getting back into fashion, and then fashion community was a really big thing for me as well, because the theme is community throughout. I don't switch up. So one of my colleagues hit me up, and him and someone else had referred me to Mike Schinner, who runs the Stitched Fashion
Shout out to Mike.
Shout out to Mike. Really doing a lot for the community. So Stitched Fashion Show is a charity fashion show that is going to be at the Times Union Center on September 28th. And it's to support directly the Ronald McDonald House. He's also done the Masquerade, which is always downtown every single year, October. And yeah, it's a very big production. So he was like, I want to do something charity. He does a couple other shows like Volume. It's a fantasy hair and makeup show, but this one was specifically to work with the charity. All the proceeds are going to the Ronald McDonald House. So he got together a team. He needed clothing. Two of the people in the room were already wearing clothes. Like one was literally wearing clothes that I made for him. So then I became that guy. I got onto the board as a consultant for fashion for the show. And then as it evolved, I got way more closely related, and it just became an amazing family. And they have a phenomenal designer, Kang Lee, who's also been helping with the modeling, the runway, the structure of flow for designers, process-oriented things. So it's given us a really good leg up on all these people who have already prior experience, but this fresh designer to really show us what we could do to set up ourselves apart from the other shows in the community. And it's not to say that like there's a competition about it, because what our show really is promoting is community, and it will always promote that. So we want to grow this to a fashion week eventually, and we want to have all these people involved. It's like it's too separated. Everyone's using the same models. It the same photographers. It's like, let's bring the styles together. Let's do it all at the same time, make it more fruitful, use all our networks to just marketably grow. So there's that initiative and that push, and we're doing it for charity. So it's not like people are out here doing for-profit shows for what we're doing.
Yeah, and I think fashion brings in a lot of different types of jobs and a lot of different types of creatives, whether it's from videography, photography, designers, stylists, models, makeup artists,
hair artists.
Yeah, it's like, something great. I'll be there.
Oh, it's phenomenal. So it's going to be a big show, and there's a lot of designers involved. I think it's 6 to 12.
Yeah, something like that.
It's gonna be big.
Yeah. Do you one thing that I think I lost a lot of my creativity when I was going through tough times is I was by myself a lot, right? Do you feel that being a part of a lot of these different community organizations, do you feel that it's helped with your creativity and sparked new ideas?
Absolutely. And I think you really said it right, is in that solitude, you really lose all that is anything inspiration. You're like, I have a focus-driven goal, and that's what I bring to the table. And that's kind of where I was at, and this workflow, inundated, no creative juices. And I was like, I can't take it anymore. So for me, it was really important to be on all these different separate boards that I was on. Yeah. Because one, this person waves their wand. That person has this resource that you never thought you'd be able to get. And just learning, because I worked for myself for so many years. I wasn't working in groups. I didn't even know how to
figure out your own patterns.
I didn't know how to work in a group.
Yeah.
But I was working for people all the time. So it just, I think
it's funny though, because I don't mean
it did so much for my creativity.
Yeah, it's like, you were doing jobs, like you said, you didn't hate it, but you were doing jobs that maybe didn't fulfill your passion beforehand. Now it seems like you're still doing printing for other organizations, but they're benefiting your core mission for what you're trying to do for Made in Truth.
Very much so. And it's very specific to the fact that I've done so much for people and I'm only one person, and it's kind of too much. Well, it's not that I'm one person. I still have resources to build my team if I need more workflow to happen. But more so, I'm just one person, and I'm at the point now where, now that I've added this community aspect, the art, the fashion, I get to choose who I want to do work for, but that also aligns with what my brand is about. So definitely trying to do a lot for more community groups.
Yeah. And that leads into my question. If I'm sure there's a lot of young kids going to be listening to this who are in your industry. What would you say to them, when they're facing certain struggles along the way? What would you say to them to help them overcome their challenges?
Well, I would first assess, what do you like and what do you love, and make that list and put a line in the middle of it, because those two are very different things. You got to really be honest with yourself.
Man is great with words.
So that's the first thing, because if you're not, you can bring all these people in to do all the shit you need to do, man. But if you really don't care about it, then it's not going to get done.
Facts.
Because when it's yourself, you only have yourself to get it done. And a lot of people are going to show you why that's that always, and they're going to let you down, and it's not their fault. It's to just show you that that's how the world works.
It's not their dream.
It's not their dream, and it's not their fault, and it's not for us to push that on them. But I will say that for anyone who's at that next step where they need the support, you have to find at least 2 to 3 people who really do support you, and not in ways where they're down, they can be down for the business. Get people who are down to support the business if you're doing that, but just get people who support you. Get people who support you.
Yeah, you could talk.
You know what I mean? Yeah. It's not about. At the end of the day, it's like I just need friends.
No, I
just
agree.
Who's really a friend? Because that shit's important. Because when it's not fun anymore, those friends, they're not around.
No, and I think of people like entrepreneurs and people who are trying to do what we're trying to do. We want to align ourselves with people with similar visions, whether it's in a different industry, because even when we sit down and have conversations, I feel like we benefit one another. And it doesn't even directly necessarily have to do anything about business. You could just be lifting me up through a tough time. Yeah. It could be as simple as that. And you really want to surround yourself with those types of people who are trying to progress and follow their dreams. And
absolutely.
Things of that.
It's those moments in those tough times where you hear the right thing and it changes your perspective. and then you open the gate to where you were supposed to go with that one thought. And I can't do that for you, but I have keys.
Agreed.
You can open doors.
Agreed.
So,
and Made in Truth is such, I think it's such a perfect, brand name. It's so versatile, but I also feel that it represents you. I really feel that you're a genuine person. Even when I was going through, I'm not trying to talk about me, but when I was going through tough times, you were there for me.
absolutely.
I love you like a brother. You're a great man. I'm so happy we were able to do this interview. The last question I'll just wrap up is what is kind of the best advice you've ever received, whether in business or in life?
Interesting. The best advice I've ever...
It can also be a circumstance that maybe shaped you.
Okay.
In a positive way.
So many come to mind. I'd say when I was at a point where I was just too fixated on I think things that if I were to categorize them now were instant gratification or just like direct results. I'd say that I was at this ashram, which is like a spiritual retreat.
Yep.
And I was talking to the Swami and I was like, you don't know me, but I need like some advice right now, Swami. I laid it on him heavy. It was right after satsang, which is night prayer.
Yeah.
Doing a lot of meditation. I was like, we got to talk over here and it's heavy. I'm sorry for this. But I was just, at that point, I didn't even know how to be mindful. I didn't know how to talk that way. I didn't know how to like really, so being there, that level of practicing mindfulness, like it's like everyone there, the way they walk, their body language, the way they talk to you, what they're saying, it's like very all curated. And until you realize that you're the asshole in the room that isn't that way, you're like,
I feel like I'm that asshole.
so when you see that and you're like, wow, like I'm really way too into myself right now. I'm way too like, it's too much ego. It was like, so I asked him, I said, I have a problem. I'm around these people. And when I meet them and it's someone new, if they don't have something that directly benefits or relates to me, I don't give a fuck what they have to say. I don't care. And it was tough. Like, I just didn't want to be like that. I was like, listen, this is an issue. I think I love people and I'm missing out on great people just for the fact of them being in my life. I don't need all these people to benefit my business, but I'm overloading in one category.
No, yeah.
What do I do? And his whole state of talk for that day was practicing this level of non-attachment. But then also in that non-attachment, maybe also doing the opposite of what you're normally attached to. So, in that instance of being really bored or really not wanting to hear what they have to say, like force yourself to go deeper into questioning, like focus in that moment where you don't care, really figure it out what that person is about. Get to know their past and their experiences and their childhood and get deep to a point where eventually you find relativity again. And from that,
that's cool.
To practice that, and it just, I think it's the genuine nature that you see now. I just think that was lost for a little bit in this maybe the support systems I had around me. I'm not sure. But.
No, I think that was a great way to kind of wind it up, because I think people, including myself, are just way too quick to judge, and you don't give people the time of day. But now that I've grown up and I've matured and have real conversations with people, you can really benefit from taking the time to learn about that person if they're a little bit different than you.
And honestly, I guess if we were going to cap it off on advice, I'd say that aspect is the best form of marketing. If we're going to bring it back to business for anyone who's interested, it's like, I'm not getting called back for someone like, yo, let's talk some shop at 8. I'm probably not getting the call, but if it's like, how was your day? What's been going on lately? And you have a little bit of a conversation. You're like, you want to get a drink at 8? It's a way different way to start a conversation with someone where it's more about the individual. It's the
In the
care.
relationship.
And then it's like, talk about that stuff later. There's always going to be a window, but not making it about that is just as important as making it.
No, definitely not. Well, Eugene, thank you so much. Made in Truth, clothing in the house.
I guess, just to do the plug right now, websites are getting rearranged, but if you want to stay up with me, Made in Truth Clothing on Instagram. Made in Truth Clothing on Instagram.
Oh, Tony, can we put his website here, his Instagram there, his Facebook there, and any other of his social media sites somewhere up here for me?
Just find Made in Truth Clothing, but you'll see a lot more on the website soon, especially after the Stitch Fashion
We're
show.
going to put it up there for you. We had that discussion beforehand.
Very cool.
All right. Thank you so much, Eugene.
Thank you so
My
much.
man.
Yeah.
You win.